cheerleader of Bitcoin. That's right, Cathie Wood is a Bitcoin FOMO cheerleader. Who is Cathie Wood? She's the manager of the ARK Invest fund. If you don't know who ARK Invest is and you're in the crypto space, well, you can easily look her up on Google or YouTube. There's no shortage of videos of her on YouTube, and no shortage of her making headlines about grand prognostications about the price of Bitcoin going to very high numbers in the very near term. She's been doing that for a long time, and she's been wrong every time. And recently she said it's going to go up to like multiple millions of dollars this year because BlackRock is buying up a whole bunch of Bitcoin. Now, just so we're clear, there's only about 1.5 million Bitcoin left to be mined, right? If you look at like, the Bitcoin blockchain and you see how many Bitcoins have been mined, it's around 19.5 million that have already been mined. 19.4, 19.6, whatever it is. There's basically about 1.5 million plus minus Bitcoin left to be mined over the next 120 years or so. So in terms of supply, the upcoming Bitcoin halving will obviously have, yet another 50% supply cut impacting the coin, and that will obviously impact the demand for the coin, and that will obviously impact the price, because that will cause volatility, which will determine the price. But I can tell you that when she is pushing these notions like she did last year, one of her friends or colleagues in the industry suggested it would get to, I forget how many millions of dollars, a million plus. It was anywhere from 1 million to 100 million, whatever the number was. It doesn't really matter. She was suggesting that in some video interview she did with this guy who was suggesting that she agreed with him that the price would be, a million plus within a matter of like 30 days from the time of the video. And that obviously did not happen. And it was very obvious to those of us who use the VEPs to trade that would not happen. And I made a video about it, and we spoke about it in our live streams on Alpha Trading, because it was clear that there was an incredibly improbable probability, incredibly slim probability, far less than 0.00001% probability that would actually occur. Is it impossible? No, of course you could technically, it could happen, but realistically that was not going to happen, and it did not happen. And as most talking heads do, she did not take any accountability for that, for driving people into buying mode, out of panic or FOMO, because they were afraid they would miss out on the opportunity to get in on Bitcoin while it's still relatively cheap compared to $1 million or more, right? And why did she do that? Well, because she's driving her company to buy and sell, Bitcoin and other things, Coinbase shares and other things. And when she does that, she obviously gets money from people who are investing in Bitcoin and other things that her fund makes available to investors, each of whom has their own timelines and goals and financial resources and all this kind of thing. And she manages, her company manages their funds, and they have a long-term investment outlook, whatever. And you could argue, sure, in 10 years, maybe Bitcoin will reach prices into the many millions of dollars, or maybe above $1 million, or whatever, because the supply has been drastically reduced and the demand is continuing to increase, and large firms are buying up more and more available Bitcoin. But does that automatically mean that just because BlackRock is buying up a whole bunch of Bitcoin, the price is going to shoot to $1 million or more this year? No, in fact, the VEPs do not indicate that will happen this year. That Bitcoin will be worth $2.4 million by the end of the year. Again, is it impossible? No. But is it probable? And should you jump in now because Bitcoin might go to $2.4 million by the end of the year? That's probably a very foolish decision. You should know how to read the charts and how to read the price action based on what happens with the volatility, right? Because the volatility is what's telling you that information. The entropy is telling you that information. The probabilities are telling you that information. The statistics are telling you that information. There are mean reversions happening constantly, right? Just as there are moves away from the means happening constantly, there are mean reversions happening constantly, and it is an incredibly volatile asset. So should you just go ahead and blow a couple $1 million or whatever amount of money you have available to invest on an asset that could easily dump a significant amount this year? Probably not. Now, does that mean I don't believe in Bitcoin? No, I think Bitcoin's amazing. Obviously, I love it. I think it's wonderful. I think long term it will continue to do very well, as it's done already incredibly well over the last 15 years. But as a trader, you should certainly not pay attention to headlines and news, which are basically misinformation and deceptions and distractions meant to mislead or misinform you, right? Those are ways for those kind of funds to get your money at relatively, good premiums for them, so that they can make bank on your investment. And while she's obviously trying to drive up interest in people, to buy Bitcoin while it's relatively low compared to what it might be in the future, and there is a halving coming up, and sure, historically you could say, well, Yasha, prices typically go up after the halving. Sure, the 3 halvings that have happened, prices have gone up. That doesn't mean that it's always going to go up after every halving, and that certainly doesn't mean that if you look closely at the charts that there haven't been significant drops after the halving. There have been, percentage-wise, there have been significant drops after the halving before it pulled away and ran up to new numbers. So could we see again a significant drop, or even a modest drop after the halving, where you could easily get Bitcoin at a better price before it starts running up, right, in its expected post-halving run-up? And again, that expected post-halving run-up is based purely on historical price patterns, which have nothing to do with the volatility or the entropy or the probability and statistics, and therefore you should not use those price runs as any measure of what might happen in the future, because that's not what determines future price action. What determines future price action are the volatility and the entropy and the probabilities and the statistics, nothing else. And how do we know that? Well, because that's what we do at Alpha Trading, right? We look at high time frames and low time frames, and it is not the price action that determines the future price action. It's the VEPs, pure and simple. If you don't know about that, come check out Alpha Trading. Go to alphatradinghq.com/discord, or just alphatradinghq.com. But come to alphatradinghq.com/discord to join the Discord for free and get free volatility, probabilities, and statistics indicators, and education about how to use them, and access to the chat with real traders, and all of that sort of thing. Access to the live streams, access to educational information, video tutorials, documentation, etc. Be able to ask questions about how to use the indicators to trade. That's what it's all about. Don't fall for the FOMO noise. It's just noise. Much like this noise I'm being surrounded by here. So I highly recommend you do that and not fall for the cheerleading FOMO pumps and pom-poms, or whatever she uses, microphones and web cameras. She might be the most lovely person. She might be a wonderful professional. She might be great at whatever she does and bring a nice return for her company, but that does not mean she's looking at best interest, right? And she charges a premium to manage your money. Just think about that. You could learn how to trade and manage your own money rather than give it to some person who you don't know how they trade, and you can certainly be, rest assured that she's not trading well with the VEPs, or at least she's not at it that she does, because, well, if she was, and honest and transparent, she would not be making these terrible prognostications that have absolutely no basis in fact. So there you go. Happy trading.